hour. I just got done with an hour-long podcast episode. That's going to drop tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. for y'all. But this is the 10-minute sports report. You come here for just 10 minutes, not a full hour. However, I would go check out that podcast tomorrow. We play some truth or false questions about the upcoming college football season. It's me and not CFP insider Roberto, so it is not Fancy Trash Can and Captain Boyne plugging your ear holes. For an hour, it's two other dudes. Well, it's me and one other dude. So, but today, 10-minute sports report. No games really happen. I'll get you caught up on the Pirates, see if they won or not. I'll get you all set for Game 1 NBA Finals. And then I'm going to cover some things also happening around the NBA. And then one big story going on in Alabama. So first off, the Pirates last night, I told you when I was recording that episode, they were currently winning 4-2. They went on to win that game 9-4. So they have a 2-game win streak, and they are 1 game over 500. They still trail the Milwaukee Brewers by a game, and they are in second place. Josh Reynolds did have 3 RBIs yesterday. In the 9-4 win. Andrew McCutchen also went 4 for 3 yesterday with three hits, obviously, and an RBI. So the Pirates are back on track, hopefully. Again, this is a modern-day miracle. One of the lowest-level salary teams are still in it it's now June 1st, and that's half the battle, okay? You're going to win 60 games, you're going to lose 60 games, and then it's the last 60 you got to do something with. Alrighty, let's jump ahead, back over to basketball. Nick Nurse, who was the former coach of the Toronto Raptors before they let him go at the end of the basketball season, has agreed to become the head coach of the 76ers. It was between the 76ers and the Phoenix Suns, and Nick Nurse literally picked, like the Sixers and the Suns both wanted him, and he picked the Sixers. Joel Embiid was the driving force here. He is the 2020 Coach of the Year. So he did make the finals and win the finals in his only appearance. His first 2 years with Toronto, he had a 76 win percentage. His last 2 years, it dropped to like 48%. So, however, Toronto really didn't have any superstars, but and there were some other factors. COVID, they had to play away from home the 1 year. So from Toronto, they played in Tampa Bay, I think, the entire year as their home games. So we'll see where this goes. This is indicative of two things to me. The 76ers are either prepared to trade Joel Embiid because Nick Nurse is used to leveling up guys and making playoffs and deep playoff runs with players who normally aren't at that caliber under different coaching staffs. 2, James Harden didn't want Nick Nurse. So I think this is Philadelphia saying, you know what, James Harden, you can kind of F off. We don't really want you or you need you. You collapsed in the playoffs. We'll find a different way. But this is to me saying that Tobias Harris is probably gone. Joel Embiid is going to stick around, and they're going to trade for some good pieces, but it's going to be much like those Toronto teams that won under Nick Nurse, which is one star player to get you a bucket when you need one, and that better be Joel Embiid, so Joel better step it up, or and then one solid player, and then a whole bunch of really good role players. Defense is going to go up, effort is going to go up, and the offense is going to be real fast paced and shoot a lot of threes. I think it's a slam dunk. That's who I wanted for the head coach of the 76ers. I wanted Nick Nurse for all the things I just stated. They got him. We'll see how it goes, but he has a lot to do in Philly, and they got to see where Harden's going to land, Embiid, trades they're going to make. Are they going to go for another superstar? How they're going to construct this roster. In other coaching news, Monty Williams, who was the 2022 NBA Coach of the Year, has signed a 6-year, $78.5 million deal with the Detroit Pistons. The Detroit Pistons have been a bottom-feeding team for the better part of the last decade, and they've not been great. They've made the playoffs one time as an 8 seed in the last 5 years and got swept. That's a lot of money. It is a record-setting deal for a coach to make. Monty Williams is a very good coach. The problem with Monty Williams, and the only thing that Monty Williams ran into, is he ran into Giannis in the finals in 2021, and he just manhandled the Phoenix Suns. And then he has Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, and they couldn't get past the Denver Nuggets in the second round. That's the only reason why he was on the market. He is a fantastic coach. He would have been my second choice, or 1A to be the Sixers coach, but Detroit has a lot of young pieces, including the 5th overall pick this year. They've had 3 of the last 5 top 5 picks, including last year's number 1 overall pick. So they got a good young core. So Monty Williams will be able to shape this team in his own image. Detroit is very patient. The ownership is very patient in Detroit, so they should give him most of those 6 years. I would probably say 5 of those 6 years is a definite to really shape this team and get them back in the playoffs. Eastern Conference, wide open. You don't know what's happened with Jaylen Brown in Boston. You don't know what's happened with Philadelphia. Miami, this is a miracle run that they're on with Jimmy Butler just dragging scrubs through the playoffs and beating teams. You don't know what's going to happen in Milwaukee. New York, Tom Thibodeau, he runs his players really hard for 4 years, and then they just give up, so he'll be fired soon. He's on year 3 of that, doing that. So at the end of next year, he'll be fired. So the East is wide open. If you give it 3 years, he could be a playoff team this year with a young talent, probably 7-8 seed, or at least in the playoffs. Then after that, look for the Pistons to get back on track. Tom Brady came out today and said that he is certain he is retiring. There was some speculation. He bought a piece of the Raiders ownership group. It then came out that Jimmy Garoppolo, when he signed he signed with the Las Vegas Raiders, pending his physical, he had some shoulder surgery he had to get done. Raiders knew about that. That was fine. What they didn't know is what kept him out last season was a foot injury and surgery that he was also going to need surgery on. But he waited until he passed the physical to get the foot surgery. So now that contract might be voided and he might miss the entire season. Jimmy Garoppolo might not play a down for the Las Vegas Raiders. If he does, he wins 60% of the games he starts. But that's if he starts the games. So a lot of people were speculating that Brady is linked. He would have to you're not allowed to be a player owner and coach. You can't coach and play. You can't own a team and play. So he would have to sell his shares and then play. But that would be a very easy thing to do. They would probably even bookmark the shares for him to buy back later. But he says he is very certain he is retired and he is looking forward to his broadcasting career in 2024. And finally, Alabama expands ban on trans athletes in college sports. So they originally did it for high school teams. The governor signed into legislation that will ban transgender women from playing female sports in college. I'm not really going to get into the politics of this because I don't really care. What I will say is, for those of you who think that this is unfair, I would encourage you to go listen to women talk about this, because they think it's unfair for trans athletes. At least the videos and the articles I've been reading from multiple different places think it's unfair for a biological male to come in and compete with them, especially at the collegiate level. There is something to be said about a biological male physique and a biological female physique and how those differ. I'm going to leave it at that. I have my own opinions. This is not the time or place for me to express those. But I would encourage everyone who is not on board with this ban to go listen to the other side and see and take it from their point of view. Life is not always fair, and that could go from whatever side of this argument you're going to fall on. But what I will say is the people that this most affects, and I'm going to say it is the biological women playing the sport that would have the trans athletes come in. It would mostly affect them, that they should get a loud say in this. Just an example, you're not going to take WNBA opinion on NBA stuff, and you're not going to do that vice versa, or at least you shouldn't. You're not going to take XFL opinion on football and put it in the NFL and vice versa. The people the athletes who it will affect the most, I think, should get a loud voice. So I would encourage everyone to go listen and read those. And if I were a woman, I would. You would have a hard time convincing me that trans athletes should be okay. I should be okay to compete against trans athletes, and it would be fair and equal across the board. So let's leave it at that. Let's wrap up. This has been the 10-Minute Sports Report. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening. I am your host, Captain Boring. Wash your hands of filthy animals. I'll be back for I might be back for a Friday rendition, depending on what happens. I will actually, because I just remembered Game 1 is tonight, 8 o'clock, Heat Nuggets. Go check that out. God bless you. Peace out.